time to start planning the mega factory and push my PC to the limit with how much create it can handle before my frames tank. That's not the goal, but it's a likely reality. Last time on Perfect World post-production, we built our first monorail train and a cool little station. But today is planning day. First up, I want to extend my monorail all the way to the mega factory build location. Well, almost all the way, because that location is actually out here in the middle of the ocean. And until we get a structure here, there's nothing for the rail to connect to. But we can still grab some monorail, get the pillars in, and get things heading in this general direction. So let's grab some monorail, crank on some music, and jump into a time lapse to kick things off. Couple of hours later, and the monorail's starting to look pretty good. We've got some good distance on it now. Although I haven't taken it all the way to where we want to go because, as I say, I don't really know how big this thing is going to be yet. But I'm glad we got a lot more of the monorail done. It's actually looking pretty cool like that. But now it's time to start planning things. And I guess I should probably reveal what it is we're actually doing over here. So it's going to be a giant factory. It's going to be making a lot of blocks for us. We're going to basically just keep filling it full of farms until the building we build is full. And I want to build it over the top of the Guardian farm so that we can farm that as well. And with that in mind, in a nod to Perfect World 1, where we built the oil rig, we're going to be building an oil rig, but it's going to be a lot different this time. For one, it's going to be a whole lot bigger. I mean, it's even going to have a train station on it, for example. But I want to do it as like an oil rig that has been taken over and repurposed and has basically been turned into its own sort of mini city. So it's going to be a great big platform, probably sort of 150 blocks wide or so. Giant pillars coming out of the ocean, a station probably on the underside of the rig. And then we're going to have lots of buildings and gardens and windmills and solar panels and all the fun things sort of crammed onto it. So that's my current thinking, basically having a multi-level oil rig structure, jammed full of farms making all the building blocks and metals and things like that. But in order to plan this, I think I'm going to be sensible and jump into Creative World, because at the moment I'm just staring at this and I don't really know even where to begin. So over here in a Creative World, I've created a big pool of water. I just want to do this on a flat world for now, and then once we've got something, we'll take a schematic and drop it into a copy of the world and see how it sits. But we'll worry about that later. For now, I think the first thing I want to do is maybe build like one of the legs, work out a rough height from the sea. So I want to make sure we've got enough room underneath the platform to accept the monorail. And it doesn't matter if I get the height correct here or not, because the poles that they stand on, we can sort of raise and lower them and extend them as we need to. And this oil platform, we want it to be absolutely massive, so let's just make some big chunky legs to begin with. So about that wide at the top, maybe. And the good news is, in this version of my pack, I have the construction ones, so I can just do this and make my life much easier over here. And I think what I'm going to do is have it get just a little bit fatter down the bottom here, and maybe a rim around the top here as well. Maybe something like this. And on this bit where it gets fatter, let's actually replace that with some industrial plating as well. Then let's maybe chuck some girders in. You know I love a girder. Well, the girders certainly make it look a little bit better. And I'm just swapping out the bottom section here for blackstone instead of deep slate, just to give it a little bit of difference. So maybe something a bit like that at the bottom. And I've just stuck another weird girder thing on the side, but it gives it a nice bit of depth. I quite like that. Yeah, that's looking cool, although I think it could probably do with a little bit of color. I wonder, could we maybe replace these girders here with pipes? See how that looks? So maybe something like that. I don't think it wants pipes on every side, but I think every now and then that would be quite cool. And we could also have pipes in different locations on different pillars. I think we could also do with maybe a door and a light of some kind. Maybe a copper lamp would actually look quite good. Then some of this andesite railing, so you've got like a little walkway around the side here. And maybe we can sneak a ladder in there. Just cover this up with some boards. Yeah, this is starting to look pretty good. Just need a bit of texture on this one now, and these industrial iron sheet blocks are actually quite nice. Let's just see what we can do here. Yeah, I think that can work quite nicely just to break up this pillar a little bit. And I think a pillar around this sort of size should work quite well. As I say, we can sort of change how tall this bit is and how tall this bit is in relation to everything, depending on how it places in the actual world. But the good news is, it also gives us a big empty space down the middle here, where we can sneak in a whole bunch of extra power. Now, let's think about the platform that's going to sit on top. And the main question is going to be, how big do we actually want this platform? So if we were to do it, for example, 125 blocks square, that would be that big. Drop it down to 110, that will be about that size. I think that probably feels about right. Let's just get a big square in and see how we're looking then. So maybe something that sort of size. And let's just stick a duplicate of that above there. We're going to fill the middle of it with black stone, and then we're going to put loads of this iron plating around the edge here. I'm just going to stick some catwalk around the edge here as well, with some industrial railing. Maybe something like that for the top of the platform. The pillars are very dark down there though, so I'm wondering if we can do something about that by maybe putting in some catwalks here. Then yeah, there we go. We get a lot more light underneath on the pillars. Or do we want them to be dark like on this side? Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but that's not really an important detail right now. So I think what I'm going to do now is duplicate this pillar a few times, get some more under the platform, finish off this top area here, which is of course where we'll be building. So for example, I'm picturing buildings kind of like hanging off the edge like this, like that kind of thing, but sort of 3 or 4 stories tall. And then we're going to have some taller bits everywhere. We're going to have gardens and things on the roof. We'll probably even have open spaces here, but essentially I want to make this like a self-contained city on an oil platform. Because why not? So let's just play around with this a little bit more and make sure that we've definitely got a set plan, and then we can start putting something in the main world. So a couple of hours later, I think we're looking a bit better. We've got a little bit more of a frame underneath just to give it some more structure. We've got some lights. Most importantly, we've got all 4 of the pillars in, and they're all slightly different as well. The pipes and things are in different places. But I think as a starting point, this is looking pretty good. However, I have no idea what this is actually going to look like in the world. So I'm going to take a schematic of the entire build. We're going to jump into a copy of our main world and just have a little play around with placement, because this structure is absolutely massive. I don't want to have to redo it after I've got it in the world. So it's going to take a while to make this schematic. And we know that the monorail is at Y80, which is here. That's the height of the monorail track. Schematic is almost ready. There we go. So the question is, how do we want this? I'll tell you what, it doesn't look as big as I thought it would once it's actually here. So now we've just got to think about where we might actually want to place this. I think having the monorail come directly into the center does kind of make sense. Alternatively, we could just sort of offset it to one side. That could work quite well. But the main thing I was worried about was the scale of this thing. And to be honest, I think it's going to work quite well. Let me just dump it into the world for now. So I reckon we're probably going to have to remove this island here just because it looks a little bit weird in terms of scale. But apart from that, scale-wise, I think it works well. Plenty of room to build our solar punk city mega factory thing on here. I'm happy with that. But now comes the hard part. I need to get this into the main world. And I think as we have spent a while designing this in creative, I'm probably going to use a schematic cannon to get this into the main world. But that means I'm also going to need to do a whole lot of resource gathering. Let's go take a look and see what we actually need. Now, back here in the actual world, I need to go grab myself some bits and bobs. So we need a schematic, a table, a schematic cannon, and a checklist for now. So let's make use of this small island over here. We'll make our schematic, and then we'll figure out exactly where we want it. And one thing I haven't worked out yet is how we're actually going to make this guardian farm down here. I mean, I don't really care about efficiency. It's a place that's going to be loaded fairly regularly, so I'm not too concerned about efficiency. I mean, we could just cover the whole thing in soul sand, send them up to the surface, and then collect them. I don't really know. We'll work it out later. But by building it there, at least we're going to have the option to be able to farm that stuff. Right, so I've got the schematic. Let's dump it on and try and get it in position. This is not going to be the easiest thing to do because it's absolutely gigantic. And let's pull it forward. I think what I want to do is not actually have the Guardian Farm in the center. I'm thinking what we should do is probably set it back a little bit. I mean, in theory, what we could do is just go over a corner of the farm, something like that, and then we could actually just send Guardians up the leg of the thing. That could actually be a good way to turn this into a farm. If we were to do it something like that, maybe? Oh, no. We got too close. And what will that mean for the monorail? How's that going to line up? So, it's going to be quite close to these pillars. Maybe we can nudge it over a little bit more. The monorail line will come in here, so we can sort of build the station off to one side of the oil rig. That could actually look quite good. And that also puts the rig a lot further away from that island, meaning that's not really a problem anymore. And let's just raise it up about that height. All right, I think that's where we're going to put it. And we're going to have to hope we don't regret it. So let's see what we need on our checklist. Well, I mean, the checklist doesn't look too bad, but we've got a whole lot of block collection to sort out. And we are, of course, going to need a whole lot more blackstone than what it says here, because at the moment the pillars are going to stop about 1 block below the level of the water, and we're going to have to extend those all the way to the bottom, of course. Question is, can we make blackstone? Oh, yep, there we go. Haunting cobble. Okay, easy. The other slightly more tricky thing is the andesite lights, because we're going to need to get some glowstone. Or actually, we could use blaze rods, and I believe we've got blazes in our mob farm, so we should have plenty of those. The copper cage lamps are straightforward. They just need copper. Pretty much the rest of it is just basic blocks. There's a whole lot of girders, though, which means we're going to need a whole lot of iron. And we've torn down our iron farm, so I should probably check on my iron supplies. I think that's the main thing we're going to struggle with. But that's another reason I can't wait to get this platform up, because we're once again pretty much out of zinc. We've only got a couple of stacks left. We no longer have an iron farm, so we're going to start running out of resources pretty quickly. And although the iron farm is down, I believe we've still got a bunch of raw iron over in this building from our drill. Hopefully we've got a reasonable amount. 1,321. Okay, that's actually a lot more than I was expecting. But yeah, you can see the zinc problem. We've actually got 5,000 blackstone in here as well from our digging. Okay, that's handy. We've also got loads of deep slate. We've got a bunch of copper. In fact, I'm going to go cook that up now because we need that. Something else we're going to need a whole lot of is andesite alloy. And we've got 270. We're probably going to want more than that. Let's grab a bunch of andesite and a bunch of iron, and we'll make some more of this up. There we go. Loads of iron and copper. And let's start with the girders. We need 3,500 of those. So let's turn some of this iron into iron sheets. We're also going to turn some copper into sheets. We're going to need to keep a close eye on how much iron we've got. We've still got about 700 in there, so that's not too bad at all. I guess the question is, how many girders do we get from full stacks of these things? We've currently got 301 in there. 512. Okay, so we're getting 512. So we need... Wow. Okay, we're going to need 15 stacks of andesite alloy and 15 stacks of iron just to get the girders we need. Should go see if I've got any more in storage before we do this. Nope, not even one. We've also got no iron sheets in there. Oh dear. I have a feeling a mining montage is almost certainly in our future. So while we wait for more andesite alloy, let's get all the blackstone stuff that we need. So that's the normal blackstone done. We also need some carved blackstone. And I think that's all the blackstone done. Now the deep slate. We need lots and lots of deep slates. So to start off with, we need loads of cracked deep slate tiles, which means I need to make normal deep slate tiles and then chuck them in a furnace. Or in our case, we'll just chuck them in the bulk smelter. Let's turn our magnet off. We've made that mistake too many times. So that's the cracked deep slate tiles. And then we need 6,250 eroded deep slate. That's a whole lot of eroded deep slate. But to get eroded deep slate, we first need to cook up all of our cobbled deep slate. So yeah, this is going to take a moment, especially because the amount we need to cook up, we can't even fit in the double chest of the smelter. So let's start this stuff cooking. Luckily, this chest actually empties pretty quickly. Let's quickly go see how we're doing for andesite alloy down here. This should have plenty in here now. Yep, look at that. Now we can make a whole bunch more girders. 3,375. It's still not enough. I guess that means we need more iron sheets. Let's get those on the go. While we chuck more cobbled deep slate in here. And should probably start emptying this as well. Yep, that's getting pretty full. We'll make some more girders. 3,581. I think that's enough. 3,428. Yes. Okay, cool. We can tick that off. Large metal girders. We need 223. But we've already got 630 on us, so that's fine. Industrial iron sheet metal. We need 1,000 of that. But let's finish off the deep slate stuff first. We should have everything we need now. We need to convert all of this into eroded deep slate. So that's 5,500. And that is just over 7,000. That should be fine. So eroded deep slate is done. Got a bunch of these andesite things we need to make. We need lots of industrial plating. We need a bunch of tough, fluid pipes, copycat things, diagonal girders. Okay, so basically iron is definitely going to be the problem here. Well, we didn't get very far with the iron. I've now run out, apart from 63 iron sheets, and I didn't even manage to get all the industrial plating we needed. That was the first thing I tried to get. So that means I need a way to get lots of iron quickly, and I'm wondering if there's something we can do over here, because we've probably got lots of cobble and gravel and things we're not using, right? Right? Nope. Not in that side. And nope, not in that side either. 239,000 diorite. That might be too much diorite. Let's maybe just disconnect that one so we stop making more diorites for now. We're never going to get through 240,000 of it. And that should mean that the gravel over here starts building up. And if I also disconnect these 4 crushers here, because that's the one that's currently crushing my gravel down into sand, then in theory, I can actually join all this back up again. And it's just going to stop making sand for us. And we have 122,000 anyway, so that's not a problem. But we're going to make a whole lot of gravel. Now, if I just grab a few things, I can make a quick and dirty iron farm with that gravel. Righty, now if we stick a fan there with a bucket of water and that, stick a funnel there that's currently pointing in just because I don't want stuff to leak out of it just yet. Look at that, we've already got 10k gravel. Stick some spruce straws at the end here. We're going to put a hole in the floor. Put a filter for flint there so we get rid of that. For some reason, I only brought 1 brass funnel with me. I actually need another one. And I've grabbed myself some compacting drawers as well, just because that's going to make it much easier to store the iron. Let's remove that. Compacting drawers in there with funnel. Get some power onto this thing. And once again, this is all only temporary over here, so I don't really care about the mess. We just do that. Get some shafts in. Going the right way? Yep. Worry. We'll replace that one with the gearbox. There we go. Temporarily remove that. Chuck a stack of gravel in there because I need some iron ingots so I can actually set this. Righty, there we go. So that's now going to accept iron and only iron. Put a funnel in. Take that round, and this is our quick and dirty iron farm. I've just locked that. I just need a whole ingot of iron so I can make a flint and steel so we can set fire to all the flint underneath, but that should wash loads at once. In fact, there's no limit because it's not on a belt, so it should just keep emptying the cobble generator. We should get iron nice and quickly. Oh, there we go. Look, it's started to come in. Look at that. Look how quickly that's coming. Now let's quickly burn the flints and wait for all of that to come in. How are we doing for gravel as well? 17k gravel. I mean, are we even emptying it quicker than we're making it? Ooh, just about, just about. But by the time all that gravel's gone through, we should have lots of iron. So I'm going to go make a cup of tea while we wait for that. Right, I'm back with a fresh cuppa. We've got 820. Amazing. And how much gravel have we got? Okay, we're basically just keeping up with what we're producing now. Well, let's leave that making iron while we get the rest of our resources together. So we're almost there. We're just making up some more andesite alloy so we can get these things. And I've just realized the size of this number of cut tough that we need. 24,500. 24,000. And I've got just over 10% of that. I have 2,800. That means we need to make a whole load of tough really quickly. And thanks to Stam's tweaks, we do actually have a recipe for making tough, which is cobblestone, andesite, and lava. Andesite is, of course, made from cobble and diorite, but at least all that diorite we've made is going to come in handy. Cobble's easy enough to get hold of, and then we just need an infinite source of lava. And that last point is where things get a little bit trickier. But I have a plan. But instead of making a giant lava pool in the overworld like I usually would, I think I'm actually going to import it directly from the nether. Then I'll just extend our temporary platform out a little bit, dump down some more cobble generators. We've already got loads of diorite to use, so that's not a problem. Then we just need a whole load of mixers to make the andesite, and then mixers again to make the tough. So let's make a start. First up, bigger platform. And I'm looking forward to having that oil rig set up. This should be the last temporary farm we have to put over here. And then eventually we can rebuild all this nicely in its forever home. This platform's just going to be a patchwork of the tough bricks I do have, I think, for now. But once again, temporary, doesn't matter. That should be enough space. Let's go grab lots of stuff and things and start working this out. Now, first up, let's tackle the lava. So let's chuck down a portal and see where we end up. Well, we're pretty close to the portal we already had, but we are directly above a lava lake. Perfect. Gonna need a bit of space to work with though, so let's just dig a little hole out here. First up, let's just build a little something on this side, which we're probably gonna have to tweak and change a little bit. Essentially, we just want a circle of belts so that we can catch the buckets coming from one side, then send them back in the other. In fact, I think what's gonna make the most sense is if we send things around this way. The hope is we'll catch the buckets on this one. They'll come around the belts here and then go back in that way. So we're gonna want to fill them when they get to, say, here, for example. So that's where our hose pulley would be. We're going to need a pump to get that out and into there. That should all work. We just need to quickly get some power going. And we shouldn't need lots of power. We just need to make sure that we're speeding it up with a speed controller. If we stick that in there, we'll whack that up to maximum. And we're going to need to power those water wheels with lava, of course. That's got that belt going in the right direction. So if we do that, that one's going the right way. Now that one's going the right way. And a gearbox in there. Should get that one going the right way too. Excellent. So if we chuck a bucket there, where does that come out on the other side? Out here, perfect. So if we put a belt on this side to catch that bucket, go this way, we'll feed into an item drain that we'll put there. Hopefully any buckets we throw in that way are going to go round the belt on the other side. No. Where are they coming out on this side? Over here. Well, that's not helpful. Unless we just make a few adjustments. Let's put a belt in there. Put another belt in here. That should do it. So let's just get this stuff here powered. That should be easy enough. We'll just use some encased chain drives underneath here. Get that all linked up. That is going in the correct direction. Excellent. So we want to have an item drain there. Right, so if we chuck a bucket on there, that should now get stuck at the refill station on the other side. Let's go check. Nope, it landed on top of the basalt, so let's just make a bit more space there for that. And I'm going to need a hand crank to lower that hose pulley as well, actually, while I think of it. Let's quickly grab one of those. Righty, I've got the hand crank this time. Let's chuck a bucket in. Hope it's in the right place. It is. It is waiting to be filled up. Excellent. So let's just quickly lower this all the way to the bottom. Which is incredibly far, and it's making me very, very hungry. Have a quick snack. See how far we've gone. Okay, we're almost there. We do need to get to the bottom of the lava lake, though, for it to actually register as infinite, I believe. So we'll keep winding till it won't let me wind anymore. Oh, there we go. Now we just need to power the pump. There we go. And yep, it says it's a bottomless supply. That's exactly what we want. Our bucket's gone through to the other side, but hasn't come back, which means there's probably a problem on the other side there somewhere. Go find out what's going on. I see the problem. The belt's going the wrong way. So what I need to do is swap out that for a vertical gearbox. There we go. Excellent. And now that bucket's going to keep going round and round. But what I need to do is pump that lava out of there. I'm going to stick a fluid tank on top just so we can store some lava. Get that going. Oh, we're overstressed. We actually used all of our power. It would appear we actually have. Well, that means we're going to need to build some more wind turbines. But for now, what I'm actually going to do is just disable the gold farm, I think. Right, that should save us some power. Once again, temporary, doesn't matter. We've got a bunch of gold now. But this thing is now running, so we have our lava. If I chuck a bunch more buckets on here, we'll have lava even quicker. There we go. Now we have constant lava. So next up, we need another cobble generator. Or, because we've disabled the gold farm, if I just re-enable that cobble generator, then we can just use the cobble that's coming through here and the diorite coming from here. So I'm going to need a whole bunch of spruce trims. I'm going to need draw controllers. I'm going to need funnels and things like that. But luckily, we've got loads of trim. Let's grab all of that. So first up, we want cobble from over here, so let's keep this one nice and low so we know what's what. Punch a hole in there, and there we go. So that one's for the cobble. We'll put one next to it here. This is going to be for the diorite, so we need to link this one up to that storage system. Let's just go across this bit here. Raw controllers on the top of those. Funnels facing the wrong way for now, just until we get the filters on. We don't want random stuff spitting out of there after all. If I take a bit of cobble, bit of diorite, we'll just check that these are set up correctly. So that one should be cobble, that one should be diorite. Rotate it round. Yep, perfect. And the setup here shouldn't be too complicated. Let me just set up these ones as well. Diorite and cobble. And those belts are going in the right direction. Then we need these belts going the other way. So how are we going to do that? Oh, there we go. I just jammed in some encased chain drives and that seems to have worked. Let's try that on this side as well. Nope, it didn't work on that side, but not to worry. I'll just change which side everything gets dropped into. So we're just going to need a draw controller there and some drawers to store all the andesites. And now I need some bowls and some mixers. So if we stick a basin there and there, mixers on top, put an input there, we'll put another input there. In fact, I'm just realizing I'm going to need to change this a little bit on both sides. Put a draw controller there and a funnel there. Lock off the end of these belts. Have an input there, an input there, and it should output into that funnel and go into the system. Okay. Then we'll do the same thing there. That should work. And lastly, we just need to power the mixers. So let's stick a draw controller there and there. And that should start giving us andesites over here. Oh, I haven't blocked off the ends. There we go. Let's mess now. So now we have our andesite, we have our cobble, and we have our lava. We should be able to start making tuff. And to make tuff, first we need to pump lava. We're going to put a draw collector there with a funnel. Stick another draw controller there and one there. They're connecting to our two different systems. So if we do this and this, get some belts in, some input funnels. In fact, I think we can probably get away with doing two, maybe. We just adjust the route of this pipe. So then I can put in more trim there, draw controller there, another collection point. And in fact, that draw trim is going to need to go round that way so that I can put the pipes round this way. And we'll block the end of these belts, get some brass funnels in, filter for andesite on that one. Cobble on that one, and we just need power there. There we go, the cobble's going in. Stick a shaft in there, that should get the andesite going in. Then we just need a bit of power here with a pump to get the lava out. Place that the right way. Lava's gone in, and power the mixers. And we're now making tuff. Just need somewhere for it to go. Let's stick another box there. And there we go. Tuff is now coming in. Not the fastest. I mean, we do need like 25,000 of it or whatever it was, but we'll get there eventually. Let's make sure we give these boxes some upgrades because we need to store quite a lot. Let's make sure we give lots of upgrades here. So we should be able to store a lot in there. 32,768. That sounds pretty good. But it is going to take a bunch of time for me to get exactly what I need. So I think I'm just going to go AFK for a bit and go do some editing. Then hopefully when I come back, we'll have all the tuff we need. How are we already 26 minutes into the video? What? But on the plus side, we now have 47,000 tuff and we need 24,000 of this. I could be here a while. Right, we should have more than enough in our bag now. However, it needs to be cut tuff. And because we need 25,000 of it, I think I'm going to build a little machine to do this for me. Otherwise, I'm going to be standing at the stone cutter forever. So we're going to start with a whole load of belts here. 16 of them, in fact. Then we're going to put brass funnels on all of these. That should spread them all out evenly. Then we're going to put a bunch of saws in. And we're going to need a few more, but I did grab some casing for just such an occasion. Just need a bit of iron. 18.4k. That thing's working a treat. But I should now be able to make more saws. There we go. Then we're doing 16 at a time. So we'll just make sure we filter all of these. And we're going to need power, so let's do that. And I'll tell you what, we could probably steal some power out of here. Got a gearbox. There we go. If we were just to do that, is that going to work? It might not. Let's quickly test. So if we put that there, spruce straws there, chuck on one of those. It would help if I actually put on a normal tuff instead of what was already a cut tuff. Yep, that seems to be working. So let's just get lots of funnels in here. A temporary block there with a brass funnel. Filtering for tuff. Get rid of that. We'll apply upgrades to that. Now, all I need to do is take my backpack, put it here, and we should start getting lots of cut tuff. Wow, that's actually going up really quickly. Amazing. We'll have this done in no time. We've got almost 27k of the stuff. That should be plenty. Let's just grab my backpack, put that back on, and now we're going to empty this. So that's one more thing we can tick off our checklist. So the only thing we're missing now are these andesite bits. I've grabbed a bunch of iron. We should have lots of andesite alloy over here now. We were making a bunch before we set off on that quest to make a tuff farm. Let's see what we've got. Exactly a chest full. We're also going to need a bunch of blaze rods, if I remember correctly. And we've got plenty of those. 15,000. Wow. So, andesite front lights. That's what we want. Very loud in there. Right. How many did we actually need? Half of what I've just made. Okay. Then we need a bunch of andesite ladders. And we need andesite catwalk railing. So we've got over 600 of that. We've got over 40 ladders. I think we're there. I think we've finally got everything we need to blast this thing into existence. That was a mission. Something I should probably think about doing is actually getting myself an elytra, so when I'm doing long distances like this, I can get there a whole lot quicker, because it takes quite a while in a jetpack. Right, so what I'm going to do is take off my backpack and place it down next to this thing, and now, if we do this, checklist is almost completely signed off. Polished blackstone brick wall. Oh, I see. We've only got one stack of it. We made loads of polished blackstone wall instead. Let me just grab a couple of pieces of stone, make ourselves a stone cutter, and then we'll make the one we were supposed to make in the first place. And now we don't have enough blackstone. Of course we don't. Right, let's go get some more blackstone and then we can start this thing off. Really need that elytra. Right, so let's grab a bunch of that and go all the way back again. I mean, we could get the train half the way there, I suppose. Let's do that. Why build it if you're not going to ride it, eh? Yeah, just imagine that big oil rig coming into view as you pull in on the train. That's going to look awesome. Now, let's fly the rest of the way to our tiny island. Chuck our extra blackstone in. Double check to make sure we've definitely got everything. Let's get started. Oh, no, that'll never do. That's going to take forever. So let's go into the config. Go to schematics. Schematic cannon. Set the delay to 1. Save that. And there we go. That's more like it. Well, although that time lapse was only about 10 seconds for you guys, it was actually over an hour, even on fastest speed with the schematic cannon. But look at that, our giant monstrosity is in. Now, it does, of course, look a bit weird at the moment because, well, it's floating. The legs aren't actually attached to the seafloor at the moment. And because there's nothing on top, the proportions look a bit strange as well. But I think once we get all the buildings and stuff on, this is going to look epic. And we've got so much space for storage and factory building. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. And the monorail here is going to run along this side of the platform. We'll build a station in between the two pillars and then have some stairs or whatever that go up to the top. This is going to be awesome. I'm very excited about what we're going to do with this. I'm less excited about having to deal with all those guardians though while we build that pillar, but we'll figure something out. I do still need to name the monorail train, but we're going to do that in the next episode because the last video has only just recently gone out and I want to give you guys time to actually put your names in. But sadly, that's all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed it and I'll see you on the next one. Bye now.